it's kind of boggling to me, but like I think what it was, and here's why I think Drop has capitalized on those, is because those were markets that were like hidden or obscured or were like not readily available or were not readily available to the wider market in North America specifically, right? Like headphones, high quality headphones have existed for decades, right? Like audiophile grade headphones, they've just been so niche, and you can only order them from like the particular website, and it was like, and so there was like an unobtainium element.
It's decentralization.
Right?
Yeah, right. So there's a very odd thing happening right now where people are embracing decentralization and they're also completely fucking rejecting it whenever it comes to consumerism. So with consumerism, we want centralization.
Right.
For some reason. We want centralization,
Right.
even though
We
it
want
always results in
Amazon.
higher prices.
We want Amazon.
We look at Amazon and we're like, oh, Amazon's cheaper. And it's like, no, motherfucker, Amazon's not cheaper. And that's
No,
not
it used to be. It used to be. I would contend Amazon used to be cheaper.
No, it did.
Now it's
Absolutely.
not.
That's why I'm looking right now at a drop GMK white on black katakana cut that's literally just fucking katakana. There's nothing complex about this other than it. I shouldn't even say it's complex. It's not. It's just a GMK fucking keycap set. It starts for the base kit at $145. How the absolute fuck is that even a thing?
Well, I actually know a good reason. So okay, this actually has something to do specific. Well, okay, one, it's market demand. There's high. Well, and then two, it's like there's a bit of that like, oh, it's marked up. But the bigger reason why it's that high actually is GMK specifically is very expensive to manufacture.
But it wasn't always.
Do you ask? No, GMK has always been expensive. Specifically
more
GMK.
expensive.
I'm not talking about other. Yes. So GMK is a German keycap manufacturing company. German. So that already makes it. It's in Europe. It's made in Germany. It's not that they don't outsource it or anything. It is made in Germany, right? And the reason why their prices have gone up is actually it's a simple supply demand thing. The demand, because what GMK allows you to do is they give you an entire fucking color wheel of plastics that you can choose colors for, the colorway of the keycap set, as it were, and they'll do it double shot,
which is fine. And I understand that. I do understand the value of having those options, but this is fucking white on black, and I can't.
Right. So, but that's what I'm saying. So here's the thing: GMK, because they become so high demand, they've had to jack up the prices, and they've created a queue system. And so basically, GMK is just like, look, this is like how much we charge, because like otherwise, if we had set it lower, our demand would be through the.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to meet demand.
That. Right. So they had to increase prices, so there's not as many people buying keycaps, but there's plenty of people who there's designers, quote unquote.
But
all these designers have done. All these designers have done. Most of them is just like picked a color wheel, like picked a few colors that they went, ooh, those look really good together in this particular combination, and then like submitted a proposal to GMK to make it. That's really it. Now some genuinely do get like some degree of artistry as far as like artisan caps go.
Right, there have been really good keycap sets, but it's like a dozen and out of 1,000.
And the problem with those is then, so GMK can use basic molds, like, you know, the standard alpha mods, all that shit.
Yeah.
No problem. But as soon as you're like, oh, I have this custom design, that's going to jack up the price because now they have to make a custom mold just for that design. Right, for that one keycap.
And that always made sense to me. Like, I get that. Yeah. Like, if you're doing some weird shit that's never been done before, and you're explaining because this like Drop wasn't the first place to do this. Obviously, like I followed other websites, and everybody explained this.
Drop never had keycaps. Like Drop getting keycaps is like a new thing. So if you actually go back in the old days,
new. It's like like maybe 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and this is just because Drop's capitalizing, right? But really, how you got those custom keycaps was actually there's been a lot of these small companies that popped up, and it baffles me. So some person makes a design for like a particular colorway with some custom caps, and then they don't sell it through one company; they sell it through like 10.
Yeah,
and it's baffling to me.
But that's changed.
Even
that's
in the same
very
country.
recent. That's way more recent than Drop having them, though, because like if I for example, if I go to Novel Keys, if I go blah blah blah, now I can find the Yuri set on novel keys for some reason. And part of the reason I think is because people like Mito and these other designers are realizing, okay, well, now I've built enough clout within the drop. They're using drop basically, but I shouldn't even say that
to build a reputation.
But that's not even true, because they built the reputation first on those other websites. For example, well,
they built them off Geek Hack mostly. Like back in the old days, the only way to get in on group buys was like you gave an email to some fucker on a forum, and then that fucker would email you like a form that would like say, all right, fill out your details here and like pay me through PayPal over here.
We used to do that.
I'll put your address down. Like that was on Geek Hack, right?
On SV Rider. This is not just Geek Hack, though. This is a universal concept. So on SV Rider, which is a motorcycle forum, so I joined them.
No, I was talking about keyboard specifically.
No, I know, but it's the exact same thing everywhere else. Like we did group buys everywhere, and on SV Rider, it would be difficult to get. I did this one time with they were side mirrors that you screwed into your handlebars, so they were in-bar side beamers. And the reason we got that price point is because we did a group buy. So drop. That's one of the reasons that pisses me off about drop is that they just fucking
they
copied.
Used to be that. And now they're not that right. Drop is now a store. It's not a group buy site anymore, which is frustrating. Now we'll see what's funny in the keyboard space. All the group buy stores now are, you're right, Novel Keys, Canon Keys, Kano Store, the Key Company, Candy Keys, like all these companies, right? There's a bajillion of them, and that's just with keycaps. Like once you start getting into like keyboard kits,
actual
those
keyboards.
Fuckers, oh my god, dude! Like oh my god, I thought I spent a lot of money.
Yeah, I know. It's fucking embarrassing,
Christ.
Actually. like I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm embarrassed and angry because I want that Yuri set. I want the Godspeed set. I'm not paying you $250.
Dude, can I be frank? I don't get the fascination with Godspeed. Not even kind of. Like I look at Godspeed and I'm just like, why?
It's not even.
Why is everyone losing their shit?
It's not even purely aesthetic. It's conceptual. It's like cultural.
Sure, it's the unobtainium, right? It's just like, oh, this is the thing that's really cool that I want because everyone.
No. I don't even think that. No, I'm saying. So I look at something. So there's a very odd section of the American psyche that truly respects and idolizes the Soviet space program. We love Yuri Gagarin, and the reason we love him is because he transcends the concept of political strife between the United
I see what
States.
But this like this is 100% people capitalizing on that though. You know what I mean? Like,
of course, yeah. But they're doing it in a good way. This is the voxel gun, dude. This is the voxel gun. Like I want it despite the fact that I know it's stupid, and I didn't pay for it though. But I didn't pay for it. Like it was too much,
dude.
I wanted it though.
Yuri base kit. The Yuri base kit is one. Well, actually, you know what? Okay, to be fair, for base kit for GMK, 120 is not bad.
Yeah, but it doesn't. But the base kit covers like
it has no
2% of people.
Novelties, right? It doesn't have the novelties. It doesn't have the. So wait, is Godspeed? I thought Godspeed was about the American space program.
No. Well, so Yuri was a subset of the Godspeed. The general Godspeed cap set. So like what they ended up doing was there were two Godspeed sets. There was Lunar and Mars. Mars was the red beige colorway, and then Lunar was the blue beige.
So wait, is Godspeed just generally Europe or generally space related, or is it about something in particular? The Apollo 11. Okay, yep, it's inspired by the Apollo 11.
It was just
this is the American space program one. But there was another lunar one though that was like a grayish set. What's that called?
There was
GMK. No, it was called GMK Apollo. I think is what it was called. Right? Yes, GMK Apollo. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Let me see.
You look at GMK Apollo. This is one I actually wanted because I really like. I'll be frank. I am a sucker for gray color. Like,
I find it boring. I looked at gray my entire life.
I love gray. I don't know what it is. I like.
It's normal.
But look at oh god, especially the subtle gray tone differences.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
Okay,
love
so
that
this
shit.
is different. This is not like the necessarily what I don't know what color they call the like the old IBMs. I don't remember what the I
Oh,
guess
like the
beige.
beige or like well, no, they call it. I think they didn't call it space gray. There was what was the IBM gray called? IBM.
I do like this gray, like all the stupid fucking little screenshot things that I make. Like I have to pick and choose the colors that I use for those things. Whenever I do like shadows or something like that, these are the types I kind of understand what you mean by that. I don't like
IBM's color is called carbon.
eh.
Like that was their original.
No, that doesn't look bad. This isn't a bad. I mean, I would never pay more than $45 for it, but
Oh yeah, no, this was definitely like a very expensive, like
that doesn't surprise me.
$150. Yeah. Again, GMK. All GMK sets just guaranteed.
The funny thing about it is, every time GMK, like, there's some popular GMK set, you find it the next fucking day on some fucking Chinese website, which I think is great, as long as it's recreated, like, well.
I think, and that's, see, okay, this is, and a lot of people would probably shit can me for saying this. I wish that happened more. It actually pisses me off.
Yeah, it bothers me that it doesn't happen anymore.
There's not, like, and I get people like, well, we gotta respect that. Who are you respecting? Like, unless they're making the novelties, which I can understand, like, don't copy the novelties because those are genuine, like, custom designs, right? Like, but I feel like I understand if like the novelty set was like, say for the set of novelties, which is what, 20 caps, was like $80, right? It's like, okay,
It's fucked up. It's stupid. but
it's like,
yeah,
but I get it.
I
They're
get
custom.
it. Yeah.
And like the base set was like $60, right?
But here's the thing
okay,
that pisses me off, because I know how fucking China works. The thing that pisses me off is they know they're going to do a second run. And so they make 6 to 10 times what they know that they need. So they base their orders, like the amount of, they base their manufacturing on the number of orders. So the next time they run this cap set, they're going to artificially make you wait to get the caps that have been sitting in there. That's why they did all these fucking grab bags, dude. That's why, so other websites do grab bags in a normal way. They're like, we've got this extra shit. Dropbox, Mass Drop literally pads their margins by making sure that they have enough extra stock that they don't even have to order it. It's like pre-ordering, but it's not pre-ordering in the way that I have to wait for the caps. It's pre-ordering in the way that we're gonna do this run right now. We're gonna see how many orders we get. We're gonna double it. Then, in 6 months, 8 months, whenever the number of people that have clicked the I want this fucking button increases to a sufficient amount, we're gonna run it again. And then we're gonna see how many orders we get that time. And that time, we're gonna place another order with GMK or whoever the fuck it is, and we're gonna do that. But we're gonna use new old stock, and we're gonna make money off of that. We're gonna do it that way. That's how we're gonna make money.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a warehouse full of every single one of these fucking sets. I swear to fuck.
I wish I knew how much GMK actually charged. That's the thing that feels obscure to me. I'm assuming over here, right? Okay. It's a mechanical keyboard cap manufacturing company in Germany. So it's a niche product made in a highly expensive European country to begin with, right? That's still manufactured there. So a part of me is like, okay, then that makes sense why it's expensive. It's being made like in a first world country in a niche product. Like, but like at the same time, it's like I would still like to know, okay, if I were to hypothetically make a cap
You can get a
set,
price sheet from them.
I could probably get a price sheet, but yeah, I'm
gonna look it up.
yeah,
And see.
I'm curious how much money these people. Admittedly, there's a lot involved in like the shipping and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Which a lot of these
And
companies offer,
you know,
like, free
customs
shipping.
and all that shit.
Right. And like they have to be shipped over from Europe to America, right? There they have to be sent to just centers, and not even just America. Like, it kind of sucks for like those people who live in like Australia or something. It's like, oh yeah, your shipping fees are like.
It's more than the
$50 or
fucking
something
product
ridiculous.
sometimes.
Oh God. Yeah. So.
And that's what happens when you live on a fucking island.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's funny. It's not even it's a continent, but island.
It's a big island.
But yeah, still, it's an island. It's so funny. I guess they're just used to that. Like they just know everything is more expensive.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I think that I mean, they're positioned really. Like there was this guy who lived. He's an American. As far as I know, he's an American. I mean, like he speaks with an American accent. So he moved to New Zealand, and he makes titanium fucking trinkets and bullshit. And he always does these GoFundMes, or not GoFundMes, Kickstarters. Like 90% of the shit I would never even consider purchasing. The only reason I even followed his shit in the first place was because I was interested in something that he was making, and I literally can't even fucking remember what it was. But it was something that I thought was cool. So he started sending these fucking emails, and I would get these emails all the time. Oh, I'm gonna make a fucking titanium pin. I'm gonna make a titanium carabiner. I'm gonna make a blah 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 blah. And I respected it. The reason I didn't stop getting his emails is because I respected his hustle. He went from America to New Zealand. He found a fucking machinist. And then he, by himself with a machinist, decided to make all of these runs of the different things, like little fucking screw top pill containing thing. That's what you presumed it would hold. The pin itself. And he would always talk shit about, oh my god, look at the fucking mechanism. It took us a long time to get, like, motherfucker, it's a pin. Like, I'm sure it's a great pin, but it's a fucking pin. And the pin would be like $100. And the fact that he was obviously an American that moved to New Zealand to do this, like, that there's clearly some benefit. I don't know what it is exactly, but part of it is the same thing that Drop is doing. The fact that they're in the Silicon Valley doesn't mean anything. What matters is where they're sourcing their shit from, and it's the exact same thing with him, except all he does is he purchases the titanium, I don't know where he gets it from, and then he takes it to his machinist, cuts it down into my understanding is, because I believe I've read this in a couple of his emails, he buys blanks. So depending on what it is he's trying to make, he buys blanks. The amount of titanium he wastes is fucking insane. If he scaled up his operation, he would waste way, way less. But yeah, living on an island has its pros and cons. I fucking can't imagine.
Yeah, because you got to get that shit shipped to you. Then you've got to ship your shit back out. And the fact that you have someone who can even do that there, right? Like, not that there's not people who do that there, but just by sheer, numbers, right? Sheer statistical probability, the likelihood of you finding someone on the island who can do the thing that you're wanting to do seems low, at least lower compared to like anywhere else in the fucking world.
So right? I've seen a couple of instances of this though. Like there's that is obviously a huge barrier to like scaling up orders and shit, but at the individual level, imagine how fucking rich you could get. If this is crowdsourcing in general, this is Patreon, this is everything. Like if you just all you need is 1,000 people who think that what you do, whatever it is good enough, and they give you $10, that's all you need. But
no, yeah, for sure.
It's like economy of scale.
Right. There's one guy. He did some videos for Polygon. His name's Brian David Gilbert. He did some really funny videos called Unraveled on Polygon. There were like these weird, like surrealist deep dives on various aspects of like video game lore, right? Like he did a deep dive on like Pokemon. No, it wasn't Pokemon. It was like basically like sexual appeal of like monsters from Castlevania or something. Just weird shit.
I recall something like that.
Yeah. So he did these. He said he's not going to do them anymore, but like. Because he quit Polygon and he made a Patreon. Motherfucker has like just shy of 4,000 patrons, and his lowest tier is $3.
Yeah, just imagine 4,000 at $1. But you know that that's not the case. But just 4,000 at $1 is a livable wage most places.
Oh, yeah. Right, and now he's making easily like probably in the tens of thousands of dollars a month. Right.
It's fucking nuts.
Dude's got it made now, right? Yeah. Well, and to be fair, that's kind of stressful because now he's got to maintain that.
Yeah, there's some stress that comes along with being a rich bitch.
Well, I mean, at any moment he could lose it all. Everyone just like drops.
You know, I mean, that's why you don't waste all that the millions of dollars that you got in the first place.
Right. You save that shit. You invest it. Right.
This is a lottery.
Get it while the getting's good, and then you like sure to not just blow it all. Right.
Yeah, because it's not going to be entirely his fault if whatever it is that he's doing doesn't necessarily succeed. But at the same time, clearly he has an audience.
Yeah, and he just makes weird, surreal. He just posted a video like a few days ago that was the dumbest fucking thing. I still enjoyed it. I watched it. I thought it was funny, but like, was it worth $3 to me? No. Maybe to somebody, it wasn't fucking me. So I'm one of those people who's benefiting. So you know, and it creates this weird knock-on effect, right? Where I get to consume his content, and I don't have to do shit, right? I don't have to pay nothing. I just can watch it on YouTube. Oh, I'm paying through ad money, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm getting advertised too, ergo I'm paying. But you know what I mean. I'm not paying money out of my actual pocket.
Why are you not using ad blockers?
No, I am. But I mean, YouTube ad blockers are.
Well, what are you using
Chromecast
for ad?
Which is never gonna happen.
Right. Yeah.
I watched it on my TV. That's not gonna get ad blocked. I have a pie hole. Having to configure my pie hole to eat YouTube ads is like impossible because they keep changing the fucking URLs. I'd have to be maintaining it every day, effectively.
Yeah, it's a giant pain in the ass to maintain a pie.
It's not worth it.
It really only works whenever you're dealing with low-level fucking, like, just sub-IQ fucking advertisers who are just automating everything.
Right, and that blocks most of that shit. What's funny is Tony gets upset because now we can't click on like the actual Google ads when you do a search.
Oh yeah, because it just ads by Google or whatever the fuck. It's like nope.
Yeah. It just blocks that shit.
Guess
she's
what?
So upset. And
Scroll down 2.5 fucking inches and it's right there. It's the exact same thing because 90% of the time the thing that's being fucking advertised to you is one of the top 5 results.
Yep. It's really funny. But anyways,
it's the exact same thing on my fucking
But anyways, his content is seriously like he posted a video that was just like that feeling when you bite into a pickle that was squishier than you were expecting. That was it. That was the title of the video, and it was just.
I don't like that feeling though, so like I can see why that would work.
It was very strange though. Like the sketch is, it's that like deliberately lo-fi comedy. I don't know how else to describe it. Like not that the camera quality was lo-fi. Like in fact the camera quality was very high quality, and the framing was actually pretty good, and like the actual like positioning of the characters and the arc of it was technically proficient, but it was like the whole like back and forth between him and his roommate was like
it was done on a fucking handycam.
Well, it was like his acting. I mean, his acting felt deliberately lo-fi. If that makes sense. Like he was like, you know, that feeling like almost like overacting in a way.
You get that with Gus sometimes.
No, the 100%. But it's deliberately for comedic effect, right? And that's what I mean. I feel like our generation's sense of humor is fucking bizarre. Like I get why old people don't understand our humor.
But
our humor's fucking weird.
It's true. It's true. But one of the things that there is a survival of the fittest sort of concept that I think comes into play, where you see that that guy. And the guy who makes fucking titanium pens, right? He's obviously making a living. I don't know what his margins are, and I don't know what this other guy's margins are, but they're enough.
Oh,
and so you get
this guy's margins are probably like through the roof because he's already got the audio, he's already got the film equipment.
Oh well, they're through the roof for him, but are they through the roof compared to Gus? Oh
no, for Gus, oh yeah, I get what you mean. Gus though, does Gus have a Patreon?
Of course, everybody has a Patreon.
Oh,
everyone who hasn't been banned.
As long as you don't say something too extreme.
Oh, you don't even have to say anything. You can just do a thing.
How many patrons does he have?
Gus?
Oh, dude, he's got poor Gus. He's only got like 400 patrons, whereas this other guy, Gus has way better comedy. Like Gus is way funnier than the guy.
Who's this other guy? Does he have merch?
Brian David Gilbert. No. The whole reason why he's as big as he is because he made some videos on Polygon doing these weird deep dives into video game lore and became hugely popular on Polygon. I almost feel like Polygon should like be upset because they hired this guy and he made some really high quality content for them and probably brought them a shitload of traffic to their YouTube.
Oh, but they didn't want to sign a contract with him for his actual worth. That's what happened.
Right, and then so he was like, and then he was like, all right, I'm gonna leave and just start my own Patreon, and they're like, fuck. Now I'm like, is anyone gonna watch? Like, I've unfollowed Polygon. Like, they're not doing Unraveled anymore. Then I'm not gonna. That was the only thing I watched from them, right? And so
I remember when Polygon had the I forget their fucking names now. The 3 brothers.
Oh, I don't. Oh,
my Bim Bam, my brother, me.
Bim Bam? Oh, was that on Polygon?
The fat older brother owns Well, he doesn't own Polygon.
But
He
he was like one
is.
of the founders or something.
Well, eh, okay. One of the weird things that happens is that if something becomes viral enough, then some of these people can actually worm their way into organizations that might not be necessarily in the most fiscally, let's say, profitable position. And then next thing you know, they're like on the board of directors or some shit. I don't know how to describe it, but
Shit.
that's the impression that I got. So I don't actually pay much attention. I don't like them like I used to, and I don't like them anymore. I feel like they're really so. Maximum Fun was the umbrella that a lot of these they created this umbrella for other creators, for like podcasters and shit. So Sawbones is a podcast that guy and his wife do, and then they all do, Mabim Bam, and then they all do Adventure Time. But they all have spin-off podcasts, and Maximum Fun is. Let me see if I can find. There's a list of all their. So Adam Ruins
Is there
Everything.
money to be made in podcast?
100%. And all you have to do is cater to an ideological audience. All you have to do is say fuck Trump like every 30 seconds. You don't have to have, and this is like an obvious oversimplification, but this is, I hate even having to use a name. All you have to say is fuck X every certain amount of time, like regardless, and you'll get an audience. And that's the current state. Like what? So Adam Ruins Everything is currently under Maximum Fun.
Oh,
And
dude, I love Adam Ruins Everything.
yeah, me too for the first 10 episodes, and then he turned into a fucking retard. A lying retard, actually. Like a bunch of his shit that he released is blatantly fucking counterfactual to reality. Like I loved
really?
Adam Ruins Everything when it was on College Humor. Then when he went independent, he realized, oh no, I don't have a choice. I have to now say things that are, or go after topics that cater to an audience because I'm no longer protected by the umbrella of College Humor. And he recognized that he wasn't able to do that because College Humor was it did not have a good trajectory, which is why College Humor is now whatever the fuck it is. Caitlin subscribes to their shitty Dropout, I think is what it's called, .tv. So Caitlin subscribes to Dropout.tv, and it's just all of these people who fucked up so badly by becoming ideologically possessed on College Humor that their entire audience, the people that they cultivated over 10 years, fucking left. Like Jake and Amir, fucking all of these wonderful, IPs that College Humor created, and even their merch. Like what was that T-shirt? The T-shirt.
College Humor's been around forever.
Oh, it was.
Like they started in the
It's not around anymore.
They were one of the first like YouTube channels that anyone bothered to watch.
Yeah, because they were fucking brilliant.
Yeah, they wrote good shit.
And then they made a T-shirt company, Busted Tees. Busted Tees is a College Humor property, or was a College Humor property, and they for a long time played off of each other. So like they would promote Busted Tees and like College Humor sketches and shit. Because I was obsessed with Jake and Amir. Like I've seen every fucking Jake and Amir sketch. I've seen every Jake and Amir outtake sketch. I've seen every single Ben Schwartz with Jake and Amir sketch. I've seen every single Thomas Middleditch with Jake and Amir sketch. That's one of the reasons why this entire cultural fucking thing shattered me. Because these people were brilliant. I wanted to be involved with these people. I mean, it in the sense that you would want to be involved with someone. Like, I don't know, whether it's political or whether it's creative or whatever. I was just like, man, I wish I was doing that. After they decided it was a good idea to onboard Zoomer ideologues, their fucking content ate shit. And it happens every time. And the stereotype is, get woke, go broke. It's not entirely true, but that's the stereotype that functionally describes this process. And it happened to College Humor, which is why College Humor is now Dropout.tv. All of their staff, except for like 8 people, were fucking laid off. And now Dropout.tv is a bunch of College Humor people playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
Yep. And that's the stereotype that functionally describes this process. And it happened to College Humor, which is why College Humor is now Dropout.tv. All of their staff, except for like 8 people, were fucking laid off. And now Dropout.tv is a bunch of College Humor people playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
And that's like, why? You had Jake and Amir.
Because that's the hot shit.
You had the fucking Google guy. You had the old guy sitting at a desk doing, making, you had fucking cameos from people who mattered. The guy in the wheelchair from I don't know if you watch it, Superstore.
No, I haven't.
So he was, they had real star power cameos in some very high production value sketches that were coming out of College Humor. And I understand that shit costs a lot of money to make, but guess what? It garnered the most views out of all of the College Humor content, aside from like weird sort of breakaway just fucking stars like Jake and Amir, but they couldn't maintain those people because they didn't want to sign the contracts. And I can only imagine that's what happened with this Polygon guy. He's like, look, this is what I've got. This is what I'm bringing to the fucking table right now. Look at what I'm giving you. This is the amount of money you're making off of me. I want a better contract. Polygon's like, fuck you. We got Bim Bam. And it's like, okay, well, guess what? We're going to go and we're going to make maximum fun over here. Like that guy, the older brother, I forget his name. I used to Travis is the little one, I think. I don't know. He, I believe, is still involved with Polygon. But Polygon used to be a tech news website.
I think The Verge was the tech news website. Polygon was always game content.
Well, okay, yes, but they were all under the same umbrella. So they were all under Gawker
Now
Media.
they're all under Vox. Well, no. You're thinking of Kotaku and
Kotaku.
That used to be Gawker.
Right,
that
used to be.
Used to be. Well, it's because then Gawker Media got folded by Hulk Hogan.
Well, they got folded by Peter Thiel, who decided, you know what? No, you're not gonna do this. I'm gonna actually put zillions of dollars into this whole Hulk Hogan thing and fucking destroy your company. Which was one of the most hilarious things I'd ever seen. I wish like shit that it happened more often, but they didn't learn their lesson.
No,
you still got
I mean they're right. They're not under new management anymore. Or sorry, they are under new management, but it doesn't mean that like their content has changed at all.
Who is it that?
That's why I still take Kotaku mostly with a grain of salt. Like if I read anything from theirs, like I don't really read it myself. It's more like if I hear something about like, oh, there's a good article, like, because the thing with Kotaku is they've hosted articles by Jason Schreier, and that motherfucker, he writes some good shit, right? He does some good.
Oh, they're good. Like I don't. So there are plenty of. I have 10,000 bookmarks, and out of those bookmarks, there are certainly some like legitimate shit that these various ideologically driven places have made, and that's one of the reasons I wrote an article the other day about, I don't even remember what the fuck it was. I bookmarked it though, but it was like from the Washington Post, and it was like, hey, you're stupid for doing this stupid thing, and I was like, that's weird that they let you publish that, but that's good.
Cool. Yep. Well, and like Vox, like I know Vox is like fucking Democrat, agenda pushing.
Oh, I wouldn't say.
Website.
I don't even use like Democrat and Republican at this point anymore. Like, there's no.
Sure.
They're just.
But I'm saying like they seem to definitely though, like they like more so than some of the other liberal rags. Like I would say like HuffPost seems to be like more in that quote unquote woke category than even Vox. Vox doesn't seem to go as far. It seems to like the fact that Vox has to like goes. It feels like they go out of their way to defend Democrats. That's why I consider it like very specifically a Democrat rag, like more than anything. Because at least that's been my observation.
They go out of their way to not offend them.
Right, but whereas like HuffPost, I think would be fine, like shitting on. I could be wrong. HuffPost is much more, and I feel like HuffPost is much more the same vein as like Gizmodo and Gawker Media, where they're just shit on anything.
Let me see if I can actually filter. So Vox, YouTube's PewDiePie amplified anti-Semitic rhetoric. Period. Again. Period.
Is this an old article or a new one?
Oh, this is just it was definitely old. Done. HIV criminalization has only increased stigma and abuse. This is in reference to like they comment a lot on California bullshit, that was about the bill here that was dealing with that.
I think what I find fascinating, like the articles that I like to read on Vox, generally speaking, and this was when things like this were more prevalent in the news. I found their foreign policy analysis to be much more interesting than a lot of their other, like, anything that was like more like more id poll type stuff. I was like, eh. But like there's stuff that was like, oh, here's the context for like what has happened in the country, right? And kind of goes over some like historical recent history things and stuff. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that, right? Like, and I didn't want to go on a Wikipedia tangent shit up. Like, I felt like Vox had, and it didn't feel like it was trying to push any particular agenda, because when it comes to, this is what I find fascinating with foreign policy in particular, is most aren't like, they're not strictly speaking like any really good, like consistent, even across like the various parties, like how to approach foreign policy. Right. Everyone seems to have like a different opinion, basically. And so I found
Right.
that analysis.
You have to categorize based on that, yeah.
Right. It was less politicized than like some of these other topics, where it just feels like, it's not even a question. Like, no, this is how.
That's
Not interested
one
in
of the
that
reasons why I
content.
just use the word ideology instead of, politics, because it's not about politics
right.
anymore.
Right. It's about idea. You're 100% right. And to be honest, foreign policy is actually probably one of the most political things you can talk about.
Yeah, and
That is
it's
genuine.
that's
like,
one of the it's a red flag to me. So
politics.
if I read an article like what you're talking about with Vox, if I read an article like it's something about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or something about the civil war, I say civil war, something about the conflict in the Ukraine versus Russian whatever
Sure,
oligarchs. Right. If I read something like that, my hackles are already raised because of the outlet. That doesn't stop me, but what I pay attention to are, and I'm not going to use the word dog whistle, because A, that's a fucked up, stupid term that, it's very reductive in nature, and it doesn't actually address what's happening. Because someone who's a good enough rhetorician is going to be able to avoid that shit. So I look at, what is the purpose of the article? I read it, top to bottom, or top to half, or whatever, however long it takes me to get to a conclusion. And sometimes I won't read all of the thing, and I should, and I'll come to possibly a more biased conclusion as a result. But if I read top to bottom all the way, I can see what's being said from an ideological worldview, and I can respect that at least more.
Right. One of the things that I like about at least the coverage I've read about, and this was like a couple years ago now. It was like 4 years ago when I was reading about the. No, this would have been more. This would have been like 5 years ago, or about the ISIS thing, and they actually went through a pretty detailed, and it wasn't the thing that I liked about it. Again, I don't know the individuals that they were talking to, but I mean, there's a certain degree of what's that trust called? National trust, where
The
it's
what?
like, like the idea of like, oh, this person's title is like some head of like foreign policy something or another, right? That seemed genuine, it seemed legit, right? Like a professor, like a lead professor at some known university who.
You mean like an
covers
appeal to
foreign
authority?
policy. Appeal to authority. Like that's what I was looking for, right? So like those appeals to authority, like especially in this context, it's like, okay. And it was multiple. It wasn't just like one source, right? So it's like, okay, so that adds to it, right? To be fair, they could be totally like plucking specific people out of the air and using them, right? But
Sure.
I got the impression that some of them they actually interviewed were like they would sometimes say like conservative or liberal occasionally, but like they seemed to interview from a wide gamut of individuals about the subject matter, and individuals who seemed to not come across as like pranks even in their words, like the way they did, like admittedly they could be chopped up, right, like because they're quoting, right, like there's all these vectors of possible like trust, right, but nevertheless I feel like you're right, maybe I could be better about like be more, but I feel like I have a pretty good understanding if I know when I'm being like preached to versus when I'm given an actual like meaningful analysis of a situation. You know what I mean?
That's why I
Like,
freak out whenever I find something that, like, because this has happened a couple of times where I just fucking lose it because an article that I've read is so subversive that. Okay, so this stems from an experience I had at College of the Canyons. Whenever I was, it's weird how these formative experiences change things. So it was not psych, sorry, it was philosophy 101.
Uh-huh.
And I was taking this exam, and we had to read 2 articles. And in these 2, we had to read 1 article. Didn't matter what the order was, you just had to read them both, and then you had to make an argument about which of these 2 articles was, I don't know remember the exact phrasing, but which of these 2 articles was making the better argument. And I remember reading, okay, I read one, read the other, and I started writing this essay. And it was a however long it needed to be essay. And I was 45 minutes in to a 3-hour fucking exam. 45 minutes into writing my argument when I realized I got this 100% wrong. The other article is the argument that was better. And the only reason I realized it was because I was going through and trying to structure this, and it took me so long. I almost got an F. I got an A. I almost got an F, or what I would imagine would have been like a pity C or whatever the fuck. And it was at that point that I realized, oh, I'm very vulnerable. I am not immune to propaganda. And I don't even remember what the fuck it was. Like, I wish I could. I wish I could remember what the fuck it was. But O'Malley was the professor's name. He was fucking hilarious. But there were these moments. I've had several of them since then that weren't nearly as formative as that. But I don't trust anything now. Like, I can't. I simply can't. Like, if I don't do a deep dive on something, I don't have a fucking opinion on it. And
that's probably, I mean, to be fair, that's probably how we should all be. I think the thing for me, and I think this is probably true for most people, is that is a lot of, and I bet you acknowledge this, that is a lot of time to spend. Right? Like, there's no way I have enough time in the day to expert on every subject.
It is a 36-hour-a-day job.
Yeah, it's not feasible. So I think that's why, like, this is, I mean, it's a bit of a shortcut. And it can be problematic, right? It can be an issue, but defaulting to the position of, like, not just a single authority, right? Not a single authority, like a single source of, like, expert, but like multiple expert sources. It's kind of a, and you can still pick specific people to say bullshit, right? Admittedly, and word it in such a way that it sounds convincing, which is really shitty, but like. That just makes it a lot easier to go, okay, that's likely the case. Now, admittedly, our current, like, academic process doesn't really advocate for meaningful discussion, right? It's mostly advocating for, like, just echo chambering, right?
Well, depressingly, it's not even just like ordinary academic discussion. It's moving into science. Like, it's literally moving into science. Like, there are these people, I'm sure I've mentioned them, but the Dark Horse podcast is a good example of it. These people are evolutionary biologists and virologists. They occasionally review academic, so I'm not going to say academic, studies that are either peer-reviewed or are not peer-reviewed. But some are peer-reviewed. Like, recently, in the past month and a half or so, there have been several studies that have come out of people who work for the CDC that have made claims from each of these things. One, that they had a paper that they wrote, and this paper was peer-reviewed. It was listed on a website that did not publish anything that was not peer-reviewed, or that specifically stated that this is preprint, which means it's not been peer-reviewed yet. It's printed. It's being peer-reviewed. So they do disclose that information. I went through this motherfucker, checked the actual sources that they cited, and found out that the way they presented the information in the paper, which, by the way, was not actually, this is what was referred to as a meta-analysis, which means they don't actually do any work. They just take the other shit and then they do the meta-analysis. They misrepresented the data in their citations for the meta-analysis and came to the conclusion that asymptomatic carriers of COVID-19 were more likely to spread COVID-19 than people who were symptomatic. Now, that by itself, you can be like, okay, as a person who doesn't know anything, people who are asymptomatic, maybe they are more likely because they don't know they have symptoms, so they go out and they do blah, 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 blah. The numbers that they cited directly from their own cited sources didn't match up. And then the contexts within that paper that they cited in their meta-analysis included shit like there was like maybe 3 examples, and one of them was like a giant fucking wedding in the middle of Argentina or some shit. I don't even remember what. Like it's very time consuming, and I don't blame anybody in the world for not doing what I did. But I listened to that podcast. I was like, that's interesting. I'm going to look deeper into this because I'm really upset that I really don't spend that there's no individual person that I spend that much time around, but I spend a lot of time around Caitlin, and she thinks that there's no nuance here. We should just all be locked down until this is done, or whatever the fuck. I don't even know what she thinks. She doesn't talk about it. So that's one of the reasons that drives me to do this. But this has transcended just basic media bullshit. What's happening is they're doing literal academic work that these people in the media can then cite and say, this is an official scientific paper. Are you trying to say that this is not real? I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. I went through it. This is not real. And in some cases there's literal academic misconduct taking place. But there's no possible way to
and the enlightened left, the people who are, signal boosting, fucking, who am I thinking of? Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, or who say like, oh yes, like we strongly believe in science.
Or
kind of
Bill fucking Gates.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, who are clearly, like, they clearly seem to, like, at least in word, say, like, they're all for science, and, they hear the phrase question everything, and they're like, oh, yes, question everything. But then it's like, okay, but we need to question these papers. Oh, no, you can't do that. And it's like, the fuck? Like...
I told you about that study that Ianitis did here. This was ground zero, where I live. It was ground zero. And Ianitis did a study here in Santa Clara, and it was a study on the seroprevalence of blah, 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 whatever the fuck. The point was, he was saying, this is far more widespread than we know. Way more people have gotten this than we know. Which means the death rates that you're projecting, and this was before the CDC decided they were going to conflate influenza, pneumonia, and COVID-19. So even before the CDC did that, Ianitis said, hey, look, we just did it was a relatively small sample size, which I have this is not an issue. I completely understand that there are issues with a small sample size, but the reason why it was a small sample size is because this is a relatively small area with a relatively small number of people within an easily definable area. So Santa Clara, where it first showed up, that's why he decided to do it. The people who were detractors of his seroprevalence study, which is why I made that shitty YouTube video with the fucking Curb Your Enthusiasm bullshit in it. The detractors were like, well, sample size. Also, you used Facebook to try to get people to take part in your... Motherfucker, it doesn't... That anybody who's remotely... So we had something at Berkeley where...
That's like someone in the 90s bitching that you use email to gather like people to join your study.
That's literally what it is.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this isn't a valid paper because you used email. What? No, whatever communication medium I use to, like, gather individuals to survey should fucking matter. Like, I don't know. And maybe there's a certain degree of, like, oh, you need to verify.
Oh, no.
Facebook makes that even easier, though, because it's like, most people on Facebook are, like, genuine people, right? Like, there's a couple of hack accounts, sure, but, like, no one's gonna, like, suddenly out of the blue send a bunch of, like, innocuous, like, you know what I mean? You can even see on most people's Facebooks, like, oh, are you in
these
Santa
people
Clara?
had...
Look, you're in fucking Santa Clara.
This wasn't like a random thing where all you had to do was, like, answer questions. They contacted the people, and then they verified what? I mean, this wasn't just like, did you experience some no.
No, right.
They called these people in.
It was just a means to form initial contact.
Exactly.
It wasn't a means of like actually, shooting out the survey.
Yeah, this was not about like the data that was harvested as a result had fuck all to do with the fact. The reason they used Facebook is because there are way more people on Facebook than any other platform.
Right.
And at Berkeley, if you majored in something that was psychologically adjacent, you had to do something called RPP, which is research participation. So they called it the research participation program. You had to sign up for a certain number of RPP credits. I'm very familiar with the constraints and the dangers of not going through appropriate vetting processes when it comes to your research participation. Like if you go in and there's something about you, they would ask you there was a questionnaire. Like if you didn't fit the criteria for the type of thing that they were trying to study, sorry, you're going to have to sign up for a different RPP credit. Like that's just the way it is. So this was it's very frustrating to me because it's so annoying. I don't think people should have to go to fucking university to be able to understand basic shit like this. Like if the thing I'm studying is well, let's take a look at seroprevalence. What do we need? People who've had COVID. Okay, let's find those people. Let's use Facebook. There's a lot of people there. Okay, we found them. They have positive tests. Let's check and see what their seroprevalence rates are, or whatever the fuck it is, to see whether or not way more people have had COVID than we actually thought. Turns out, yup. But all the detractors were just like, Facebook use Facebook to find these people? Oh my god, what the fuck? And it was at like,
yeah, isn't there a logical fallacy around that where you just on like when you focus on an aspect of the argument that has nothing to do with the argument?
A red herring, I guess. But
yeah,
what frustrated me so much was that this guy, and I again fucking rabbit holed, Dr. Ioannidis is not a quack. This motherfucker is so well regarded prior to that seroprevalence study. It's fucking astonishing. The fact that everybody was like attacking him for this, and by the way, here's the reason I made that video is because the guy who whatever the fuck his name was, I don't even remember his name, this YouTuber. I was steel manning, right? I don't just hide shit. I don't like, I believe this thing and fuck that. I looked for every video I could that was criticizing the shit out of Ioannidis' study. And I think his name was MedRx, I don't remember. His video was probably the most legitimate one. And so that's why I chopped his video up and did what I did, because he says at the very beginning, Dr. Ioannidis is one of my most respected. I have followed this guy, I know him, and I'm very upset to see that he is propagating these fucking and I don't. The fucked up thing is, and this is what upsets me again about this whole thing, is I don't believe this guy's ideologically motivated. I don't think he's a subversive. I don't think he's paid by the fucking CIA. I think he's just so goddamn stupid in the sense that he can't recognize when he's being ideologically motivated by someone else, that he genuinely doesn't recognize that there's a serious possibility that Ioannidis' study, which was not peer-reviewed at the time that MedRx released his video, will be and is currently under peer review and will be published as a peer-reviewed study, which it was on the fucking CDC/WHO website a short period of time later. But you know what it also was as a result of all that media coverage? Ignored. Completely fucking ignored. So I was like, to me, this is one of the reasons. So now you get this argument, this bizarre dichotomy between people who say, oh, well, you just don't believe in science. And I'm like, yeah, I don't believe in science. I have no problem fucking saying that at this point. Like, what's your science is my question. Like, is your science actual science? Is your science following the scientific fucking method? Or is your science a series of media outlets? Because my science is rooted in actual fucking experience doing science.
Yeah, why is science? It's weird. Has been touted, especially recently, as this sort of like anti-ideology, like or counter-ideology, when in fact in doing so it has become nothing but an ideology.
Up until
Right.
very recently, it's been that way. Like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that because there were periods of time
No,
in history where the
I would
Catholic
contend.
Church was science.
Well, right. No. But I'm saying, like, I mean, they leveraged. Yeah. To be fair, like back in the old days,
Right. But after
science was
that,
ideology. But yeah, there was a period of time where it was fear. It felt genuinely like, oh yeah, no, science is the realm of fact. There's not like, we're not like we don't have to go out of our way to be like fuck religion with science, right?
right. But now
Yeah,
we do.
science is science, right? And in doing so, it has made science an ideology.
100%, which was what we were fucking
as if it was
screeching
an
about 5 years ago.
It's so
This
annoying
shit's
that,
gonna
like,
move from the social sciences into the hard sciences. And if we don't deal with it somehow, and because it was academia at the time, because it was people in academia saying this, like I have screenshots on fucking Facebook from 2014, 2015 of people talking again about not using male and female to describe physical adapter interfaces. And to me, I didn't at the time. So I shifted to I don't even know what to call it. It's like ideologically nihilistic, but I literally, there's no word for it really. Like, because I never felt that I identified particularly with a party. Fuck parties. Parties are useless. The vast majority of the time, they don't do fucking anything. So I decided to try and identify who I was based on a set of not beliefs necessarily, but a set of principles. And that set of principles mostly identified with what I guess you could say described the American left. That changed drastically. And the fact that changed drastically was very upsetting.
I lost you, I think. Oh, hold, hold on. I lost you again. It's been a while. Kind of surprised. Like,
yeah,
it's
no,
been so long
it did a
since
very
cut out. But
I don't know if it's because the load decreased.
It was. Yeah, probably. No, what I was gonna say is you cut off, or yeah, I lost you right at fuck political parties. They don't do anything for us anyways.
It was so.
And
after that, I just decided I'm uninterested. I was a registered independent. I registered. I wasn't I don't know if I was I think I was a registered independent in California. I re-registered libertarian because who gives a shit what the fuck happens in the primary in California? California, most liberal state in the fucking country. You can't vote for anyone outside of the party that you are identified as being a member of, because that makes sense in a primary. Why the fuck not? So I was like, if I'm not going to have a voice, why the fuck even? So whatever, I'm a libertarian. So I stopped doing the political party thing, and I was like, I'm going to try to identify myself as a set of principles. And the set of principles, it just didn't fit anywhere. And so that's why there's this huge influx of politically homeless individuals, because they don't fucking care about politics. They care about principles. It's very frustrating when you see people who care about principles and they deeply care about principles just being disregarded because they might say something like, well, Trump didn't do that bad a fucking job. Or, well, maybe we should investigate this stupid laptop thing. I mean, it seems kind of weird and whatever, but I mean, we did the whole...
Which laptop thing?
The Hunter Biden laptop thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I see. Yeah, and this. Okay, I know you bring up Trump regularly, and like
It's just because he's a salient exemplar. It's just because he's the bad guy, and like whenever you take someone who is the bad guy, and you're like, okay, fine, yeah, he's a bad guy. Look at it. Look at the shit he said about Rosie O'Donnell. Look at all these things he did. Great. Okay, yeah, I don't like that. He's a bad guy. But how bad is he?
Sure. Like taking the Trumpness out of it, you're right. He actually didn't. He probably didn't do that. I mean, it was more of like a job of nothing, right? He didn't do much. Ergo,
he uncovered the fact that no president does anything.
You're right. It's pretty much his cabinet, and I think that's actually one of the more damaging things of his regular
I don't think
run
it's damaging
was
at all. I
just
think it's
how-
extremely important. Everybody needs to know